ASMR. The subject of today's video is not one that I was planning on doing. In fact, I had an entirely different topic that I wanted to cover as I prepared for the weekly video. I just got off the phone with my younger sister, who is moved out of the house for the first time, and she is entirely on her own, entirely independent as of right now. And there's a lot to be excited about in those moments. I remember how excited I was when I first moved out. But at the same time, there is a lot that can be stressful. There is a lot that can make you feel anxious, make you feel lonely. And she's experiencing some of those feelings because she doesn't know anybody. She's in an unfamiliar environment, and she has no personal connections at all. As I was listening to her, I couldn't help but to think about all the times I had been in her exact same situation. I moved out of the country, didn't know anybody. I moved to Alaska for a summer, well, I guess 2 summers. Didn't know anybody. Moved after school, started working, didn't know anybody. And now I'm in another state, continuing my education, and once again, I don't know anybody. So as I sat there and I listened to her, struggle with these uncomfortable feelings, I started to think, how did I make it out of that? What have I done in these situations that has helped me to make connections? That has helped me to become a social creature, because by my nature, I like to seclude. I'm more introverted than I am extroverted, and I've talked about that, I think, before. So, even though I like being in new places and starting with a clean slate, that doesn't mean it is easy for me to talk to new people, to make friends, establish connections. It's not easy. It's very difficult. So I started to think, what have I done? And a few things came to my mind, things that have helped me to make connections with other people, healthy connections, strong connections. And I think a lot of it I owe to a book that I read while I lived back home, and while I was in high school, and while I was lonely and had no friends. Because when I started high school, I actually I moved, so I had to start from the ground up, and I was lonely for a decent amount of time. And I learned how to be comfortable with being lonely, so that's good. But like I said, humans are social creatures. We need interaction. It's healthy for you. It keeps you sane. And so I got my hands on a book that was called How to Win Friends and Influence People. It is by Dale Carnegie. And I have found myself mentally returning to the tips and tools inherent within that book whenever it came time for me to make friends, whenever it came time for me to establish personal connections, because I have found them to be invaluable tips. They are so helpful for me. I know that there are critics of the book, and I understand their critiques, because every relationship is different. Every person is different. There's not a one-size-fits-all solution. But I think it's okay to have some general guidelines. I've definitely found these guidelines to be helpful, even if they aren't always applicable at all times. So I thought tonight I would cover some of those things with you. Also keep in mind, I'm not saying I'm perfect at this stuff. Some of these things are very difficult to put into practice, but I keep them in mind, and I found that they've been helpful. So without further ado, let me start by sharing a few tips from this book. Let me know if you've heard this book before, if you have any tips of your own. And while you're here, feel free to leave a like on the video. It's always really helpful for the channel. So, the first tip that Dale Carnegie gives us, and he has, I think each chapter is dedicated to these specific tips, so this is going to be very conclusory and summative. But I think for the purposes of this video, it's okay. If you want to get more in detail, you can read the book. One of his first tips he gives is to refrain from criticizing, condemning, and complaining. Refrain from criticizing, condemning, and complaining. And this one is pretty difficult to do. It really is. I think, at least I'm a critical person. I see things done a different way than how I would do it. I see people behave in a way that I wouldn't. And it's hard for me to keep it to myself, to just shut up and let people live their lives. Sometimes I have a hard time with that. I like to complain and I like to criticize. However, nobody likes to be around people like that. Nobody likes to be around people like that. You want to be friends with people who are uplifting, who are complimentary, and if they need to give feedback that is opposed to how you would behave, they are delicate, and they're calculated with how they give you that feedback. It says here in the little subtext that criticism often breeds resentment. Instead, offer constructive feedback and focus on understanding others. And that's convicting to me. I need to do better at that. But I think that we should all try a little harder to be a little bit more understanding. We certainly want people to be that way towards us. So keep that in mind. That's the first tip. The second tip is to give honest and sincere appreciation. Give honest and sincere appreciation. I think all of us have been in that position where we have done something for another person. And it's something that we kind of had to go out of our way to do. And either we just didn't get acknowledged for our efforts, or it was the most, unsincere thank you or thanks that you've ever received. And it's just super frustrating, and you feel dismissed, and you feel like you are not appreciated and that you're taken for granted. Guys, it is so easy to fall into that behavior. This tip is very important. Be present, especially when somebody does something for you, goes out of their way. Be present, appreciate them for what they've done, make it known, compliment them, commend their effort. People do things. If people ever do things for you, you should be so quick to thank them and to do it genuinely. It says here, people crave appreciation. Everybody wants to be appreciated. Express genuine recognition and gratitude to strengthen relationships. I think this is a big tip for intimate relationships. I think it's really easy to take your partner for granted. So let's do a little bit better, guys. Let's be genuine and let's be grateful and show our appreciation. That's tip number 2. Number 3, arouse in others an eager want. Arouse in others an eager want. It says to motivate others, focus on what they want and show them how they can achieve it through your suggestions. This part of the book I remember was really funny. It is ultimately, if you want somebody to do something, or you have a goal in mind and you have to unify people, allow them to make their own suggestions as to how they will achieve that goal, or as to how your team will get it done. People like to contribute. They like to be a part of the planning process. So if you ask people rather than tell people, like if I need to get something done rather than ordering someone to do something, if I say, how do you think is the best way to solve this problem? Let them come up with the solution. And as they come up with that solution, it also instills with them an eagerness to see it through. I found that to be very true. Really important tool. Obviously don't manipulate people, but I think this is really good for people in leadership positions. Number 4, become genuinely interested in other people. I'm noticing a key word throughout these tips. Be genuine, be authentic, be present. It says, take the time to learn about others and show interest in their lives. This builds rapport and trust. This is something I've discussed at length with my younger sister. The fact of the matter is, most people only care about their own lives. Most people only care about their own lives. They're only interested in their interests. And if you show interest in their interests, if you show interest in their lives, they appreciate you noticing and caring about what they want, what they like. And like it says, it builds trust and it builds rapport. We want people to do that for us too. We want people to be interested in us. So essentially, if you are interested in others, it's easier for them to return that interest to you. So it doesn't even have to be something you are all that familiar with. If you meet somebody who likes archery, you can be like, hey, so explain archery to me. That's so cool that you're into that. How long have you been doing it? If I was to get into this hobby, where would I start? People love to instruct and to give tips. And I think that that's how friendships blossom. That's how relationships begin. So be genuinely interested in what other people are interested in, and just see what happens. This one's pretty simple, but Dale Carnegie says we need to smile. To smile. A simple, sincere smile can make a lasting impression and creates a positive atmosphere. This is another thing that I don't know, I struggle with it just because I have a hard time interacting with strangers and knowing how to start conversations. since I started school here, because I'll kind of just be straight faced, and I'll try to like not make eye contact as I'm walking past people, and they've been like, dude, you always seem so focused. Like, what are you thinking about? Like, you walk straight past us and don't even acknowledge we exist. And I think that this one is another convicting one for me. It's so nice to be noticed. I think that smiling ultimately is such an important tool because it shows others that you notice them. And everybody wants to be noticed. Everybody wants attention. So it's harmless, it really is. Next time you're passing somebody, you can smile and don't be like creepy or anything, but just smile and nod. Just notice that they exist. That goes a long way, and it's always nice when people do that for you. This one is a big one. Remember people's names. Remember people's names. You will fail. You will fail 100% of the time at making friends if you cannot remember their name. And this is not easy, especially when you're meeting a lot of people all at once. If you're at some, I don't know, party, or you are in a public place and you're being introduced, just try really hard to take a mental note of names, because if you fail to remember somebody's name, it indicates that you don't think they are worth remembering, or that they aren't worth your time. And I think that all of us feel a little bit of a stab of pain whenever we meet somebody and they get our name wrong, or they just don't know it, or just say whatever, it's good meeting you, I don't know. That's very dismissive. And it happens to everyone. I mean, it happens to me all the time. But this is one thing that I've done that has been especially helpful in making friends, is remembering names of everyone. And I think that this is a big reason why I got the job that I did right after I graduated from college. I'll go very quickly over that, but I would go door to door knocking and handing resumes, and right after I introduced myself to those at the front desk or the receptionists, I would write the receptionists' names down in a little book. And when I went back for interviews, or if I needed to go back and do follow-up, I would greet them by name. And that means so much to people, it really does. It means a lot to me when people remember my name. So, really try to take that seriously. Try to be very aware of names and remember them. Make the other person feel important. Make the other person feel important. It says here, sincerely make others feel valued. Acknowledge their contributions and unique qualities. There's a quote, I think it's by Benjamin Franklin, but it says something along the lines of, every man is superior to me in at least one way, and in that I learn of him. I mean, I probably didn't get that word for word, and it might not even be by Benjamin Franklin. But it's true. Everybody out there has a unique skill set, has something unique to bring to the table. Recognize that ability, recognize that skill set, and compliment them on it. Tell them it's really cool what you bring to the table, like, oh, you have a great memory, or you are very sharp, very quick. You have a great sense of humor. I love your sense of humor. Notice something, because everybody's better than me in at least one way, right? So just acknowledge that. People love to be acknowledged. If you don't learn anything about this whole thing, just learn that other people like to be acknowledged, and if you acknowledge them, they will appreciate you. to show respect. It's not easy all the time. But it says here, even when you disagree, acknowledge the other person's perspective. This reduces defensiveness and opens the door to dialogue. So, if you meet someone and they have an entirely different perspective, try to step in their shoes. And it's not always easy, but try it. It's way better than immediately telling them that they are incorrect or that they're wrong about something or that they are, they have a fallible position or, I don't know, belief. Just listen, let them explain themselves. I think that a lot of the time we are so quick to just start yapping about what we want and what we believe and what we think that, I don't know, I'm just thinking about situations in school that I've experienced recently where people were asked about what their opinion was on something, and they all start jumping down each other's throats because there was a difference in opinion. And I've learned to kind of just sit there and nod and just listen and go back and forth. And it's funny because almost all of the time the attention will turn to me and they'll be like, so you've heard what we think, what are your thoughts? And that is, I mean, not that I have anything of value to add to the conversation most of the time, but I'm like, listen, I think that this is great and I think that that is great and I understand. But that is the point where persuasion happens. It is at that point when somebody asks, when somebody actually wants to know what you think. That is when real dialogue and real persuasion happens, at least in my opinion. Here's one, and I might need to end the video a little sooner. You'll have to let me know if you want a part 2. But it says here, admit when you're wrong quickly and emphatically. Admit when you are wrong quickly and emphatically. Guys, we all have an ego. We all have an ego. We all want to think that we have got it right, that we have done our research, that we know the answers. And in those instances where things might be suggesting we are incorrect, or when we are outright proven to be incorrect, we need to swallow our pride and we need to admit that we were wrong. There is nothing wrong with that at all. There's nothing wrong with that. To say, oh, I was mistaken about that. I'm sorry for, I don't know, not that you need to apologize, I guess, but just say that you're correct. I was wrong about that. I failed to take into account X, Y, and Z. But it says here, owning up to mistakes quickly diffuses conflict and earns respect. And I think that's true. It's so hard to socialize and to have a relationship with people who can never admit that they were wrong about anything. That is so frustrating, and it's not easy. I get it. It's not easy to say that you were wrong, but if you care about the relationship, if you value the other person, and if you value honesty and truth, then there's no shame, there's no harm in admitting that you did something wrong or you said something wrong. We all should work on that one, I think, a little more. It's really hard for us to admit when we are wrong, myself included. But anyways, there's a few